Our monthly meeting of Montgomery County Utility District number 60. I will ask that Brian Yates begin with the rules of teleconferencing, and we'll proceed from there.
This is Brian. Thank you, Bob. So welcome everybody to the Montgomery County MUD number 60 Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, June the 15th, 2021. As in prior meetings, I'll briefly go through the remote meeting procedures and perform the roll call. So to begin with, I need to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded as required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. Second, please remember to state your name before you speak, including the making of any motions. When you're not speaking, please be sure to mute your line. Third, we'll continue to practice with having a roll call to vote on each motion. After a motion has been made and seconded, please wait until you hear your name called and then respond with a verbal aye, a nay, or an abstention. Finally, we need to identify each person who's joining the meeting remotely today so that we can accurately reflect the attendance in the minutes of the meeting. I'll perform a roll call for the board members, followed by staff and consultants. When you hear your name called, please announce that you are present in the meeting. Likewise, if you need to leave the meeting before it adjourns, please announce that you're doing so before you disconnect. Once I've completed the roll call for directors, staff, and consultants, I'll ask for any members of the public to identify themselves for the record. So starting with the roll call for our board of directors, Bob Lux.
Present.
Mike Wise.
Here.
Richard Stromat.
Present.
Betty Doherty.
Present.
Sandra George.
Present.
Okay, that completes the roll call for our directors. We do have a full quorum present. We'll move on to Woodlands Water staff. Jim Stinson.
Present.
Mike Mooney.
Present.
Jeannie Scott is out at CLE today. Maureen Bourgeois.
I'm here.
Shelley Lawson Kennedy.
Here.
Any other Woodlands Water representatives in the meeting? Okay, we'll move on to Sandra Center River Authority. Ron Kelling.
Present.
Ed Shackelford.
Present.
Chris Meeks.
Present.
Matt Corley.
Present.
Anyone else from the River Authority in the meeting?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on to MUD 60 consultants. Do we have any MUD 60 consultants in the meeting? If not, we'll move on to members of the public. Do we have any members of the public present in the meeting? We need to identify you for the record as well. Maureen, does that cover everybody who appears to be logged into the meeting?
That's everybody.
All right, that will complete our roll call. Bob, I'll hand it over to you to begin the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very
Brian.
much.
Brian, could I make a point of information? I have a medical appointment, or we have a medical appointment of importance at 1 o'clock. I need to leave the meeting at 12:40 and to be able to attend that meeting. I would just like to note that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stromat, for that information. I'd like to begin with a moment of reflection. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you guide us to provide a spirit of welcome, to engage in respectful dialogue with wisdom, kindness, and humility for the common good of those we represent. Amen.
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 Pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge of allegiance to the United States to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Comments from the public. It appears as though there were none registered. Has anyone logged in since the roll? Hearing none, we'll proceed to item number 4, Consider and act upon requests for adjustments to or relief from the specific charges imposed by the district. Mike, please.
This is Mike, and nothing for Mud 60 this month.
Thank you. The consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda? I do, if nobody else does, and I don't know that if it's a comment more so than a question, but comparing the revenues from last month, and Maureen, if you could please explain to me how this occurred. Go to account 603-4900, other income. We showed a monthly activity of $550,078 in April, which I guess was, yes, April activity. Whereas in May, that was down to $60, it appears.
This is Maureen. Normally other income or NSF fees we collect, it also is transfers from the surplus funds and capital projects to cover the AMI project, and those are not every month.
Okay.
Almost fully paid.
Okay. I guess the other observation that I have, is there any concern, perhaps this is a general manager's question, that we're not going to meet our revenue projections in the budget because of this shortfall in other income?
And I would have to look at it in a little more detail to give you that kind of feedback.
Okay. If you would be so kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding the consent agenda, the financials, the minutes, the tax collector's report, the expenses for the trustees, and we have the authorization of the state filing?
No,
Hearing none, I'd accept a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Betty.
second,
Thank you, Richard. Having a motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted and a second, we'll proceed with the vote. Director Lux, yes or aye. Director Stromat,
aye.
Director Doherty,
Aye.
Director Wise, Director George.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Regular agenda. Item number 10, receive the San Jacinto River Woodlands Division report. Chris,
Good afternoon,
that's
directors.
you.
This is Matt Corley. I'll be
Hi,
giving the
Matt.
report today. Good afternoon, directors. On page 15 of your packet is the Woodlands, SJA Woodlands monthly operations report. I'd like to highlight this month's, the fiscal year to date blend ratio, groundwater to surface water. We're at 49% groundwater to 51% surface water. Again, that's fiscal year to date. And there were no permit violations for the month of May. And that's all I'd like to highlight unless you have any questions about the report.
I never do, Matt. I'm always happy when I don't see that little asterisk about an E. coli violation. or
Yes, sir.
something.
Yes, sir. No violations.
That's the thing I always look for first.
Yes, sir. Well, if there are no questions, I know Ron Kelling had a few comments he'd like to make. I'll turn it over to him.
Okay, yeah, this is regarding the GMA 14. We really appreciate those of you who have provided comments to Lone Star, and both verbally and in writing, particularly those who showed up at the public hearing the other week. It was a good showing. There was about 12.5 folks from the Woodlands there. And so I really appreciate all the attendance. We still have opportunity for written comments through July the 19th. And the GMA 14 vote was scheduled for October the 6th. I understand that is going to be moved. I don't have a date in which where it's going to be moved to. I don't know if it's going to be earlier or later. I think that's yet to be determined. But anyway, we thank y'all for y'all's efforts in that.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I probably have been told this, but I've slept a little bit since I was told. So if Lone Star stays with their position of not using subsidence in the DFC, and the rest of GMA 14 votes for it, what's the outcome?
They will be required by state law to incorporate what is been voted by GMA 14 into their management plan. Now, they have the right to also file a protest, or any citizen who owns land in Montgomery County has a right to file a protest through the TCEQ regarding that DSC, that it's not feasible, and then that would start a process down that road that would last probably a couple of years. So
to do that, to file a protest, one has to hire an attorney to file a protest against the DEQ, or do you do that as a, or could their board attorney do it?
any individual who owns property in a county can file protests with the TCEQ, and the attorney is not required.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Betty. That's good information for all of us. Thank you, Ron. Agenda item number 11, receive and discuss the SJRA Woodlands Division budget.
This is Chris Meeks. This item's on the agenda in case there's any questions on the budget that was presented from any director. If there are none, then thank you.
I think we mashed that out pretty good. Any further questions? Anybody? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 12. Receive information from homeowners on at number 3 and number 7 East Horizon Ridge Place regarding property erosion. Mike?
This is Mike Mooney. I did get a cost estimate from the contractor I brought out there last Friday. He broke it down into 2 different estimates, one for the homeowners and one for the district. And I'm going through it right now. The homeowners have not seen the estimate yet because I've still got some questions and some clarifications on where on the division between what's the homeowner and what's the districts. So we're hashing that out right now, and I hope to get that out to the homeowners for their review by the end of the week.
And once that occurs, then it'll be presented to us like probably next month.
And unless the homeowner wants to get their own contractor, this is just a guy that we've used and the River Authority has used that I chose. They're certainly welcome to solicit some more quotes. And I would recommend they do that, but they may just want to put it behind them and go. And if that's the case, then yes, I would present it to the district next month as to here's what our portion is forecast to be.
Thank you. Any discussion, fellow directors?
No.
Thank you. Agenda item 13, attorney's report. Brian, please.
This is Brian. I have been reporting to the trustee board last month and MUD board meetings this month that the governor has again renewed the disaster proclamation for another 30-day period to expire in early July. We're in constant communication with the governor's office, and they have committed to give us advance notice of when they are going to lift that proclamation. They haven't given us any indication yet, but I think everybody's starting to feel that that's going to be coming to an end here before too long, with the cases being where they are throughout the state and the local area. So we are gearing up to be able to host in-person meetings for our district clients that meet at our office, anticipating to have that option available for districts beginning in September after Labor Day. For Woodlands Water, the trustees did vote at their meeting last week to begin holding their meeting in person next month. The trustees also voted to recommend that the MUD boards defer for one additional month before they consider a vote to begin meeting in person with that in-person meeting schedule anticipated to be in August, assuming all goes well with the trustee meeting and that there is no uptick in cases, which I don't think anybody expects at this point. So our proposed plan would be in person for the trustees in July, and then in person for the MUDs in August. Jim has conducted a straw poll among the directors to get feedback on for each of the MUDs to get feedback on their willingness or desire to meet in person. I think that's in general been pretty strong in favor of in person, but there have been a handful of folks who are still wanting to be able to meet remotely. So we're hoping that this schedule will be able to accommodate everybody. Once we begin to meet in person, we will, assuming the governor's proclamation is still in effect, we will not be able to use the governor's proclamation to hold a hybrid hybrid in-person meeting. Received a couple of questions about the ability of a district, if it goes back to meeting in person, if there's one or two directors that can't meet in person, but the other three can they still post the agenda under the disaster proclamation and have dial-in and video conferencing options for those directors? And the answer to that question is no. The way the disaster proclamation is set up is that it suspends certain provisions for under 551-125, and if you actually meet in person, one of the requirements to still be able to meet remotely under the governor's proclamation is that it's difficult or impossible to have a quorum at a physical in-person meeting location. Well, if you're actually meeting in person with a quorum, then it's not difficult or impossible. It's actually, been accomplished. So we would not be able to rely on that disaster proclamation. That being said, there is, as some of the directors may know, a separate provision under the Texas Open Meetings Act 551-127 that has been in place for a few years now, and it does allow for video conference participation by directors if there's a quorum physically present at a physical meeting location. We have taken a look at that in years past, and I believe with staff have come to the conclusion that it did not make sense for districts to try and utilize that provision because of, at the time, what were perceived as the cost and logistics involved with being able to comply with the provisions of that statute. Now that we've been in a COVID environment and meeting remotely and using Zoom technology for a year plus now, I think it probably bears revisiting that statute to see if there would be the ability going forward once MUDs are meeting in person to have that option available if directors are not able to meet in person but can meet remotely. That statute does require that you have to have 3 people present at the physical meeting location. So it couldn't be 2 directors in person and 3 remote. But if there's a strong desire for one or more districts to have that hybrid option, then I think we can certainly revisit that as we get back into an in-person meeting environment. But those are the questions we've received so far. Anticipate that will probably be others as we get back to meeting in person, but we're all looking forward to hopefully getting these board meetings back to normal in the near future. Happy to answer any questions y'all may have at this point, but otherwise that concludes the attorney's report.
Questions?
None.
I just again have a comment. I think that would be, knowing the makeup of our board, the ability to have a 3 present, 2 out due to family members out of town and so forth and so on. It'd be a nice option to have when the time comes to discuss that, Brian. If there's nothing else, we'll move along to agenda item 13. Excuse me, 14, pardon me. Receive and act upon staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election for the term of January 1, 22 through December 2024. That's on pages 22 and 23.
You may recall last month, Metro Center MUD took the initiative to inform the Montgomery Central Appraisal District that they were interested in having a special district candidate on the ballot for the MCAD Board of Directors. They weren't the only special purpose district to make that request. I know there was one, maybe two others. So this month you get the opportunity to put a name or with who you'd like on the ballot. Metro Center MUD nominated Arthur Bredehoff, and actually MUD 1 also did. It only requires one of our MUDs to put a name forward, but in an effort to show some unity and support, MUD 1 also nominated Arthur. So you can either take action and complete a resolution, which you're going to have to come and sign in person before the next, before July 15th, I think is the deadline, or you can let the two nominations that have already been done stand. Or you can pick another person if you have somebody else that you would like.
Forgive me, Jim, I don't know that you mentioned it. If you did, I missed it. Aside from Arthur, who was the other nominee?
Well, there's from our district, no other nominee.
Okay.
MUD 1 said Arthur and Metro said Arthur.
Okay.
But a couple of, one or two other MUDs will probably be submitting candidates. The township, as you may recall, also in the past has submitted a candidate.
Okay. And
So
being as they have 20% of the votes, it's
they
nice position
have
to be in.
actually can control that position.
Is it too late to also nominate Arthur?
No.
Let's do that.
I personally, yeah. Director Stomat, would you make a motion, please?
Make a motion to recommend Arthur for this position. Arthur Bredehoff.
Second, anybody?
Second, Sandra George.
Thank you, Sandra. Having a motion and a second, do we have any further discussion? Okay, call the question. Vote. Director Lux, aye. Director Stromat,
Aye.
Director Doherty,
Aye.
Director George,
Aye.
Director Wise.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 15. Consider an act on potential funding partnership with MUD 67 on Bear Branch, Panther Branch, Research Forest Drive drainage improvement concept. And those were the two maps that were included in our packets.
Yes, you probably have heard me reporting for several months now about the progress of this project being sponsored by MUD 67 and their application to the Texas Water Development Board for funding assistance. And back in May, it was approved. So that was a great thing. But now with that approval, we are looking at, and I've also reported many times that, in my opinion, this is kind of a two-component project. There's a drainage improvement component, and then there's a community or commerce and mobility component. And you should have received an email from Shelley earlier today that talks about those allocations between drainage and commerce and mobility. If I can pull it up here on my screen, I think.
I didn't get a chance to review it. Thank you, Jim.
if you look at the maps that, I'll tell you what, let me start with the maps. Go back. Okay. This map here shows all of the various mud districts that drain. Here's Bear Branch running through here, and Bear Branch Reservoir, Bear Branch, and unfortunately, this map doesn't go all the way down, but these are the various muds that drain into Bear Branch upstream of Gosling. Here you can see a small portion of Mud 60. So Mud 60 is contributing to the runoff that is what we're trying to mitigate or correct along Research Forest. This again is the drainage area map that shows all the various contributors. So this is the map that shows the drainage benefits. Mud 67 neighbors and residents and Woodlands High School, Twinberry, there's going to be a big drainage benefit to these homes here. There's going to be a significant drainage benefit to these homes along Bear Branch that are in Mud 47, and homes here and here in Mud 7 along Panther Branch, assuming the improvements get completed. These neighborhoods are typically underwater, substantially impacted by rising water from Bear Branch. So we go back to this document, and what we've done is allocated the estimated cost is about 10 million. We will be getting a portion in grant funding, but for discussion purposes, the estimate is around 10. I think the project is estimated to be a little over 11 million, and a little over 1 million is projected to be a grant fund. So 10 million will be needed to complete the project. The commerce and mobility benefit, we're estimating at about 3 million. And the drainage benefit to just these three muds is about 7 million. So looking at the commerce and mobility benefit, Metro Center looked at this at their meeting yesterday and agreed to contribute 1 million because of Research being a major artery, major thoroughfare for commerce and mobility. They felt like it was appropriate to contribute to this project. The muds that we looked at the drainage area map a minute ago, these are the ratios of the total area for each mud's contributing area to that area of Bear Branch. Mud 60 is about 5.8%, or about 115,000 out of 3 million. As you can see over here, the total cost per mud, if you look at these ratios and these ratios, Mud 67 would be about 4.9 million. Mud 47 being a large contributor to the drainage area, and about a 25% benefit from the drainage improvement to their residents. Their portion would be about 2.7 million. And so what we're asking today is Mud 60 consider being a funding partner in this to the commerce and mobility benefit based on your drainage area into Bear Branch upstream of Gosling at about 5.8% or roughly 115,000. Brian, would you like to add to that explanation as well?
This is Brian. So as Jim mentioned, this allocation of costs is really the culmination of several conversations to be able to determine how best to allocate the benefits associated with this. We did include Metro Center mud in the participation, since even though they don't have direct drainage flowing into the property. They do have a benefit from the drainage being improved because it does improve mobility, which helps with the commercial retail aspect of the district. And so they have indicated their willingness to provide up to $1 million, and the remaining districts are listed based on their drainage benefit and any commerce or mobility. We do need to have commitments from each of these other MUDs very soon in order to proceed with the bond issue for MUD 67. The Texas Water Development Board has a deadline of the end of November for the district to issue its bonds. There is a one-time extension of a 3-month period to be able to push that out to hopefully February, and we are trying to obtain that extension now. But 67, understandably so, has said, look, we're willing to be the sponsor of this project and have done the legwork to get it in front of the Water Development Board and ultimately get it approved. But they're not going to move forward with the bond issue unless they have commitments from other partners that would be more than half of the cost of the project. And so at a roughly $10 million total cost, and that's going to be refined in the coming months by LJA as they do additional planning work and environmental work. But right now we're saying is around $10 million. This most recent cost estimate shows them coming in at 4.9 and change. And so we would envision that there would be an interlocal agreement among all the participating MUDs where each district would agree to put up their pro rata share, and that money would be put up in cash and would be put into an escrow account pursuant to the terms of the interlocal agreement. Then MUD 67 would move forward with the bond sale, and they are limited on their bonding authority. They've only got $5 million and change of bonding authority. So this bond issue will pretty much wipe out their remaining bonding authority. And so they are not willing to move forward with the bond issue without this interlocal agreement and agreement among the parties in place. So the district would go, 67 would go issue its bonds, and it would put those bond proceeds into the escrow account as well. So you'd have the cash from the other participating districts, you'd have the bond proceeds from MUD 67. The project would then go forward and be let, and progress payments would be, and planning and engineering, et cetera, would be paid out of that escrow account. You'd have a final accounting at the end, and to the extent that there were any remaining funds at the end of the process, that those would get rebated back to the districts on a pro rata basis. And, if there was a cost overage, then the participating districts, with the exception of Metro, since theirs is a flat contribution based on perceived property tax benefit from mobility, the other MUDs would contribute on a pro rata basis for any cost overages. So what we're looking for right now is each of the districts to consider the proposed participation and authorize us to move forward with the preparation of an interlocal agreement if they're willing to move forward. And if they're not, then we'll have to see if any of the other districts are willing to pick up the slack. And if we ultimately can't get the participation that we need, MUD 67's has said that they'll just halt the process and shut it down and not move forward. So that's where we are. It's a good problem to have. We were in competition with a whole lot of other entities to be able to get approval of this application through the Water Development Board, and are very pleased to have been able to do that. And now comes the heavy lifting of trying to get some partners to make this a reality. So I think that covers it on my end. Happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
And one thing that I maybe failed to stress today is that the commerce and mobility benefit is research forest is actually designed to be inundated during a major storm event. The roadway is below the floodplain elevation around the Woodlands High School and over near the Bear Branch soccer fields. I mean, it was designed that way. And as we've seen, gosh, just in the last, well, since Allison, it's been underwater numerous times. So this is not correcting a mistake. It's actually improving a design that was acceptable and was allowed back when it was constructed. So this is taking a bad situation and making a better design and improving and making research forests where it would be open to traffic during the type of storms we've seen since Allison.
I have a question. I don't know if this is again a general manager question or a finance question for Maureen, but when would we have to come up with this money?
This is Brian. It would be whenever we, at the latest, it would be whenever we move forward with the bond issue. It may not be at the time of the execution of the ILA, but would be within a certain number of days after the ILA that would hopefully sync up with the bond issue by 67.
Okay, which was like you mentioned November, the end of November?
Yeah, I would anticipate by the end of the year.
I guess the second question is the most important one. Can we afford it, A, and if so, what account would it come out of, B? Is that on page 11? Is that
Yeah, this is Brian. So the district certainly is in a position from a financial perspective to be able to provide funding for this, and it would be coming out of your operating account. I believe this district is one of the ones where we had all of your capital project funds approved in a change in use application for TCEQ to go toward the wireless water meter project. So this would come out of your operating reserve, and you can see from page 11, you've got a very healthy balance or budget balance on your operating reserve for budgeted to expenses.
In order to create further discussion on this, I would propose that I would make a motion that we consider and discuss the funding partnership with MUD 67 on the Bear Branch, Panther Branch, Research Forest Drive, drainage improvement concept as earlier submitted. If there's a second to that, we could further discuss. If not.
I have a question before we go there.
Yes, sir.
When do we have to make a final decision? It sounds like you're proposing we think about it some more. When do we have to come up with a final decision?
Well, actually, Mike, I was proposing that we move forward today.
Oh, okay. All right.
That would come out in discussion. If you care not to do that, I totally understand. But I think that I was satisfied, not to get ahead of the discussion part, but that A, we could afford it, B, the funds are readily available, and C, we probably won't need to do it until later in the year, September, October, November, somewhere in that bracket.
I'm good. I just misunderstood that you were proposing to act on today. That's kind of what I thought we should do.
Okay, so is that a
Yeah,
second?
and this is Brian. So it would also be to authorize preparation of the interlocal agreement, which would come back to the board, and that would be the final approval. When you approve the ILA. So this would be to approve moving forward at the estimated contribution that's set out in the spreadsheet that Jim prepared, and authorize preparation of the ILA.
Okay, if I need to restate that motion, Shelley, that would be whatever Brian said. So
Got it.
to approve the allocation of funds as outlined by General Manager Stinson and the preparation of the interlocal agreement by Attorney of Record Schwartz, Page and Harding.
Second that motion.
Further discussion?
I thought Jim and Brian did a beautiful job of explaining this. And it seems to me that we need to do this.
I'm ready to vote.
Very good. Now that's just for this motion for the interlocal. Okay. Director Lux, aye. Director Stromat,
Aye.
Director Doherty,
Aye.
Director George,
Aye.
Director Wise.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Now we move to,
Excuse me, Bob and
Yes.
Brian, this is Director Stromat. I need to take leave of the meeting.
thank you for your
Thank you.
participation, Richard.
Thank you very much.
General Manager's report, please.
Okay, thank you all. Just a few items to summarize from our trustee meeting. I reported that we are continuing to have productive discussions with TACUS on modifying construction techniques, notification protocols. And we, at the, I guess recommendation from our outside counsel on collecting the money for damages. You may recall we initially sent an invoice to TACUS and then went into several meetings with them and talked about the Texas government code and utility communication companies and how that relates to damages from their boring contractors. And after several meetings with them, our attorney agreed to support re-invoicing the 5 prime contractors that were actually in the field doing the work for TACUS. Those invoices have been resubmitted with a note that we consider them past due at this point. So I think we put an expected payment date of next week, one day. So we'll see what kind of response we get from those 5 prime contractors on the recovery of expenses for damages. But I can tell you without hesitation that we are prepared to go to court with this if we don't get payment.
It's, we've had this discussion before, and I believe even with Schwartz, Page and Harding, Brian, that this is unheard of. I can't believe that the corporate veil can't be pierced. I mean, we had no contract with these subcontractors. We had no contract at all. If I remember correctly, it was all with the county, wasn't it?
Well, the county has no control either. They're in a similar.
They had a contract.
No,
they did not.
No contract. The county is unfortunately, the way the law is written, these types of companies have almost full reign of the public right of way.
It's known as outstanding lobbyists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's over the years that has been niched out and to their favor, absolutely. But I think we have the right attorney representing us, and he's given me support and confidence that if we have to go to court, we can prevail. So,
very good. Anything else, Jim?
Only other thing is that there's a monthly status report from HARC. Along with that, the comments that HARC prepared to the Lone Star Groundwater District Phase 2 subsidence study. And the consortium has met and reviewed HARC's report on where extensometers and where additional GPS stations should be located throughout Montgomery County to adequately monitor subsidence. So that report will be made public soon. And then the other items I did report, we still are having discussions with Woodlands Township about the potential to relocate 2 AMI poles from neighborhoods around Slash Pine and the HEB up on Woodlands Parkway that the neighbors, residents in those areas are objecting. So we're we're just looking if there are other options and what those costs would be, but that decision will be made by the trustees and MUD directors at a later date. And then,
Has there been an opinion registered yet by the township about the Design Standards Committee, how this issue fits into their overall, I don't even know the right word, how these poles fit within the design standard that has been set?
well, first of all, they are completely exempt from any design standard regulation or restrictions. You know, the poles, we have every right to put them where they are, and they have every right to remain where they are without any violations.
Okay.
This is Mike Wise, Jim. Going back to that invoices to the contractors on the damages. Well, how much money are we talking about?
Around $200,000 between quite a few MUDs.
And how about for MUD 60?
Mike, I don't have that number.
Okay,
It's pretty equally spread out among 4 or 5 MUDs.
okay.
Then the only other thing I'm reporting that we're continuing to work kind of in partnership with San Jacinto River Authority on putting ourselves in a position to take advantage of any funds that might become available from the Biden infrastructure plan. No secret, SJRA has much higher, more immediate needs than the MUDs do for big sums of money. So we are putting together a short list of lobbyists and consultants that might help with that, and working on setting up a meeting with Kevin Brady to sit down with him and get some guidance and thoughts from he and his office on this topic.
That's terrific. Jim, are you melding the general managers and the trustees report in the same, or are you going to move on to that?
That concludes my report.
Of both?
Yes. Well, no, the trustee report would be your opportunity to talk about the trustee meeting. As the trustee.
I was kind of on the fly, if you recall, and I would appreciate it if you could help me out with any. I do have one question, and I wasn't in full grasp of all that was going on, but it seemed as though we missed, either it was intentionally or by error. If you recall, on the May 12th meeting, we had agenda item 15 to talk about receive and consider SJRA water option with the Trinity River Authority. And then there was nothing on the June 8th meeting. Is that intentional, or was there nothing more needed, or where do we go?
Well, at some point, we will probably come together and make a recommendation, but it would be next month.
Okay, so it will be on next month's agenda, and that action will be taken there. It's nothing that the MUDs have to do at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, one further thing, I dropped you a little note. Maybe Brian can chime in on this. I was told, or I observed in the legislative session, that the omnibus bill SB3 had passed, and that just the things that you always love coming at you, Jim, more unfunded mandates for emergency preparedness and so forth. Has there been any opportunity to see what the financial impact is going to be, or what the requirements are?
I have not, no, sir.
Okay. Do we know
Yeah,
when
this
that
is
might
Brian.
occur?
So, yeah, we're going through all the legislation right now, Bob, and we're working on the legislative summary. So we expect to have that summary of all the bills that will have a material impact on the district's operation or business at next month's board meeting.
Very good. Okay, that discuss matters for placement on future agendas. We're good on 16 and
A
17.
question, Bob, and I don't know that it's a future agenda question.
Yes.
Did anybody else observe the Lodestar Groundwater Conservation District's meeting the evening meeting after our comments?
I did not.
Ron and I both did. This is
uh,
Ed Shackelford.
Right, Ed, and the gentleman that said that the Lone Star shouldn't be tasked with correcting the Woodlands, watering of all their golf courses with water. I mean, he said if somebody could bring him evidence, and I just wondered, anybody with more knowledge than me heard that. And I think there's a ton of evidence that we could bring forward, or at least that I've seen. And I don't know what the format would be to introduce. I believe he's already been introduced, but to reintroduce him to that information. Is there any steps to take care of that?
Ron and I have not talked about it, but it would be fairly easy to offer information to suggest that maybe some of his statements were not factual.
Does that need to come from you guys or from the activist point of view? Because we have
Probably the
quite a few
activists
the water, babies that are always listening in and paying attention. It seemed to me the activists could offer it.
I think the water babies would have better success than Ron or I would, just
So
because
we
of the agencies we work for.
All right, so they're probably all gonna be mad at me about the water babies. I think they've got a better term for it. Okay, that's
I like
what
it.
I need to know. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
like it. Would it be helpful if I were to contact the general manager of the Woodlands golf courses, who would know the amount of money, water that's being used from non-potable sources for irrigation?
Bob, if you would check with Paul Brown first, I believe that he was working on that
Okay.
particular issue before you go to the trouble.
Thank you. I'm always like to have an angel on my shoulder because I have a way of trouble finding me. The other thing the only thing that I was going to say is not that it needs to be on any future agendas, but just a request for all of our board members to actively contact their friends, neighbors, other Montgomery County residents, and particularly that from North and East County, to visit stopoursinking.com, become educated, and then most importantly, submit a comment to the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District and thereby GMA 14 regarding the DFCs. Is there anything else that needs to be thought about or put on next month's agenda?
Only thing, Bob, that I would have added under the trustees report is a proclamation was put forward by Trustee Martin that was unanimously approved by the trustees regarding staff's work performance during the COVID outbreak and the winter storm.
Yes. Is it appropriate to go into the details of that, Jim? I'll be happy to do so if you feel it's appropriate.
Well, I think the proclamation is in the packet, I think.
I don't recall it.
No?
I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying I don't recall it.
It was in the trustees packet.
Thought it was. Oh, yeah.
But not it couldn't be. I mean, for the proclamation, not the additional. Okay.
Well, and the personnel committee also authorized the general manager to make a cash award to the employees based on performance.
Right. The proclamation was providing visible thanks to the exemplary efforts of all of the Woodlands Water Agency personnel during not only the recent rain events and so forth, but also Winter Storm Uri, and just a culmination of really good work, and we wanted to some way, thanks to Trustee Martin for bringing it forward to show appreciation to the staff of the WWA. So did I miss anything, Jim?
No, but I think it would have been my hope and intent that we had it in the packet, but we didn't. But we'll get it, I think, get it out to the director so they can see it. It was a nice document.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just under other.
Each employee is going to receive a copy
Oh,
of
pretty.
that document.
That's
Um,
lovely, Shelley. Thank you.
We'll scan it and get it emailed to the director.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further business, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Sandra.
And I
Thanks,
second
Sandra.
that.
Second, Betty, and therefore, taking a roll call vote of all, and I assume that's a unanimous vote to adjourn, because I know Mike has got a tea time here shortly.
Got a little time yet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good day to all.
Thank you.